Hello folks, how you doing? Today I'm going to do a NASCAR Heat 2 review. So if we look at the NASCAR Heat 2 Steam page, it says NASCAR Heat 2 brings the most authentic and intense stock car and truck racing of all time. Test your driving skills across 3 NASCAR National Series and 29 NASCAR sanctioned tracks. Go head to head in local split screen mode or take the action online with 40 car online multiplayer. So yeah, this is the premier American motorsport series, NASCAR. The developer is Monster Games and publisher 704 Games Company. Now this game is getting a fair bit of stick on Steam. A lot of people are saying that the game is a console port, or the graphics aren't good enough, or the AI aren't good enough. There's a million different things, but to be honest, you know, it's a NASCAR game, it's stock cars, you know, you get what you pay for, you get what it says on the tin. It's actually a good NASCAR game. I mean, you know, if you like NASCAR, you've got 40 accurately modelled cars, all the drivers, all the sponsors down to the last decal are in place, all the tracks are there, perfectly rendered as they are in real life, so they don't really miss anything out. The things that it kind of lacks in some ways are, for instance, the damage model is not particularly good. I mean, there isn't much visual damage on the game. But essentially the basics are all here. You know, it's you can go and race, you can do a championship mode, you've got a career mode. Incidentally, the career mode is very similar to you know, the Milestone MotoGP career mode. But this one is actually more interesting in many ways because they have the videos that they've taken of actual NASCAR stars, and they kind of, before when you start your campaign, Brad Keselowski says, "We need more people like you, you know, in NASCAR," which is kind of funny because I don't think I could get into NASCAR, but thanks anyway, Brad. Yeah, I mean, it does NASCAR, you know, it's NASCAR through and through. I would say personally I like the graphics. They're not anything special really, but they're not terrible. They're far from terrible. You know, you've got high res textures. You know, it does the job. One of the criticisms that I would sort of gravitate towards agreeing with is the AI is a bit flat. You know, different drivers don't really have different personalities out on track. They could have done a bit more on that, I feel. You know, especially when they have like this rivals aspect of the game in career mode, where if you push someone or barge them, they sort of harbour a grudge against you. But then I entered the next race and this driver who disliked me basically got I was there, which you know, they could work a bit, I think, on the coding, you know, trying to make the drivers a bit more like they are in real life. Who's the guy who can kind of pull a win out from nowhere? Who's the guy that's like got the black hat on, he's pushing everyone off, or trying a pass on the grass, so to speak. So yeah, again, if we mention some criticisms, a lot of people say, oh, it's a console port and the graphics are no better than the you know, NASCAR Heat Evolution. I think they'd probably be right to say that they've used the same game engine, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, it's very difficult to make games like this. You have to spend long hours doing everything, so reusing a game engine is fine as long as they add new features, and I think this has definitely added brought a bit more to the table than a lot of previous NASCAR titles. So one of my favourite modes was the challenge mode, where you click on various different sort of scenarios, and then you played a video, you know, like, can you recreate Jeff Gordon's famous win at Daytona in '97, for example? When they say challenge, it's an overused term, but they are actually challenging these challenges. It took me quite a few restarts to get some of them nailed down. And of course it kind of gives you a little goal to aim for, a little bit of structure in the game. Structuring games is important. That's why games like R Factor, who could perfectly simulate all the NASCARs, same as this, but you wouldn't necessarily have the structure to hold a championship. So yeah, personally, the graphics, I'm not too fussed. I'm not someone that needs a massive rig. I don't mind as long as I'm not looking at pixels or the draw distance or frame rate. Frame rate really is irritating if the frame rate's poor. But none of those were an issue, yeah. And as I said, I haven't got the most incredible rig, so it's good, more accessible for more people. So yeah, just sort of want to touch briefly again on the damage. You know, they really should try and aim for something a bit more like Codemasters Grid Autosport, which has a very good damage model. So yeah, I mean, another thing, as I've already sort of touched on, the personalities in the NASCAR arena kind of shoehorned into the career mode, so you will actually see a little video of someone telling you to stop bumping everybody or I'll make some enemies. Now, as far as gameplay goes, it doesn't really make too much of a difference, but I like the little videos. I think we should have more of them in the next one.
You've been doing really well out there. Keep up the momentum. Good job.
Yeah, so despite there not being much of a crash damage engine, you can still have some pretty spectacular crashes. The pile-ups are really fun to watch on the replay, and they do affect the course of the race. Okay, so there's obviously a few compatibility issues for wheels and control pads people have complained about. I actually tried playing the game with a wheel and my wheel worked fine. A lot of people are saying that the handling is arcadey. Project Cars 2 has more realistic handling. Well, it'd be difficult to comment considering I've never actually driven a race car, but I quite like the handling in this game. Because it's NASCAR, you think that the cars will handle like a shopping trolley at Tesco. I was actually pleasantly surprised. They do have a slightly nicer handling than expected. Going around a corner is not as difficult as I would have thought. That said, these aren't exactly thoroughbred circuit racing cars. They are a bit big and unwieldy, so the rounds where you're driving a circuit that isn't an oval is a bit tricky at times just because of the nature of the beast. So people tend to complain about petty things like the crash damage or the physics or whatever. Well, you know, I actually think, again, I'd say like the physics, the crash damage are pretty good.
The roof flaps actually come out when there's a crash. In the real NASCAR, that is mainly to stop the car from flipping. It's a small detail, but you know, it's really good that they had the presence of mind to add it in.
And also the pit crew in this are really nicely animated. That's another small feature I like. So if I have to rate this game out of 10, I think it probably gets a solid 8. There's definitely a few little things that could be tweaked, but overall it's for me it's a good NASCAR game. If you're not a big fan of NASCAR, it may be more of a 7 or 6 or a 7. But if you like NASCAR, you want to play a NASCAR game, I would give this an 8 and say that it definitely does the job. Just improve that AI a little bit next time. Let's have a bit more personality. Cheers guys, and I'll see you in the winners.
Wow, that was so close. I just want to congratulate you on the amazing win.